Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. 10 years ago, there was a large pine beetle outbreak in southern Wyoming and northern Colorado. The beetles killed a lot of trees, and the outbreak was immediately blamed on global warming. March 24, 2012, a study out of the University of Colorado said climate prompts beetle population explosion. Call it the beetle baby boom. Climate change could be throwing common tree killers called mountain pine beetles into a reproductive frenzy. A new study suggests that some beetles living in Colorado, which normally reproduce just once annually, now churn out an extra generation of new bugs each year. This story was picked up by hundreds of journalists. CU researchers document accelerated breeding by tree-killing insects. But then a few years later, the pine beetle outbreak ended, which means that either global warming stopped or the outbreak never had anything to do with climate. This photograph shows lodgepole pine trees in the snowy range of Wyoming where we go hiking frequently. And if you look closely, you can see that about half the trees are dead and half the trees are healthy. Let's take a closer look at the snowy range on Google Maps. I'm going to zoom in on the forest as far as it'll go. You can see that about half the trees are dead and about half of them are living. In 2011, a Yellowstone National Park spokesperson explained what was going on. Huddle said prolonged fire suppression allows forests to overgrow, leading to large stands of diseased trees. It creates greater fuel loads capable of supporting catastrophic fires like those experienced in 1988. We've had 100 years of fire suppression, which has led to overgrown forests. Humans are creating an unhealthy forest by preventing forest fires. The beetles are nature's way of thinning out the forest and thus restoring it to health. The problem is, though, that after the beetles kill the trees fall down and there's a large fuel load on the forest floor. One way or another, a large forest fire is going to come, which is a good thing, because lodgepole pine forests can't reproduce without a large fire opening up the seed pods in the cones. Because of all the wood lying on the ground, a lot of my favorite places to hike have trails which are now abandoned. I don't mind walking around the trees, so this means that I get huge areas of wilderness all to myself and the dogs. And then when the fire does come, as it did 2 years ago, the forest quickly regenerates. I took this picture less than a year after the big fire of October 2020 in southern Wyoming and northern Colorado. The reality is that we've always had huge pine beetle outbreaks like this one in 1924, or this one in 1950, 1948, 1930, and 1935. There's lots of academics sitting in their ivory towers who do not understand the forests and they don't understand science in general. But they get their 15 minutes of fame and funding for making up fake stories about climate. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on these scamsters in academia and the press for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki and Upala on the web at RealClimateScience.com.